Sorry. Thank you.
There you go.
All right, I'm going to call the Katuitt Water Commissioners meeting to order on January 17th at 5:45 p.m. We have Commissioners Robinson, Churbuck, and Horsley here. We also have our tremendous staff, Jen Nash and Chris Wiseman with us, and we do have some guests, which is very exciting. Happy to have all of you here. So let's proceed with the agenda. And really the first thing is to ask if there's any public comment. And for those of you who are here to comment on another item, we can get to that later, but we want to give the opportunity for anybody to make any comments on any relevant matters. So welcome, Mark, Fran, Penny. Do you have anything you'd like to start us off with? Okay, we'll give another opportunity later. Let's move on to the agenda, next agenda item, which is review and approval of minutes. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review and any comments or motion?
I have read them and I move that we accept them as written.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
You?
Excellent. And Chris, let's move on to your water quality report.
Water quality is pretty easy this month. We just had bacteria and all came back free and clear. We are planning on doing some of our quarterly testing this month, so we should be getting to something before next month.
Okay, that's a quick report, and I have two questions. One is just remind us when the next PFAS round is, and also the second question is Tom was going to sample that monitoring well that we put in. I'm just trying to remember the schedule on that. So if you can respond to either one of those.
I believe that March is the next scheduled for PFAS. I'm not positive. It just kind of sticks in my head, but it's only 2 stations. And I think it's down to 1 time this year, so it might even go to the fall. I'll have to take a peek, but I will get back to you on that and let you know. Let me just mark that down.
If you would, let me know in advance, yep. Chris. I'm just interested in that.
Yep.
Thank you.
The ones for 2023 were done in April, Chris, April 13th.
Yeah, so it was April, and wasn't the others? Wasn't there 2 times we did it?
I don't think so. Okay. I think you did a second round for the class action.
UCMR. Yeah, the UCMR.
The UCMR 5.
Yep. Okay.
Chris, one other related question on that. Do you have easy access to the PFAS results from other water departments on the Cape by chance? Up to date?
No, I don't have them. I mean, I'm sure we can get them off if we request by going online and looking at their consumer confidence reports.
Right.
Because they have to put what they have in there under those reports.
Okay. This would be something worth, I think, interesting in tracking. I'll talk to you about this offline sometime.
Okay.
I'm interested in staying on top of that. We've been fortunate. We've been doing pretty well so far, and I want to make sure we stay on that track.
Right.
Mr. Chairman.
And the other question you had for me was the testing of the monitoring.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
I actually haven't talked to Tom between getting ill over the holidays and John leaving us. John was kind of Tom's right-hand man, running around with him out there, helping him with everything. So we haven't touched base again on it, but I'll make a note here to touch base and see if he wants to get together on that. He might want to wait till it's a little warmer weather.
And it may make sense to coordinate that when we're doing the PFAS, because I think you're going to do PFAS on that well as well,
It was going to be there also, yep.
So maybe coordinate that when you do the production wells at the same time. Okay, good. Yes, Mark.
Just noticed that APCC put out its annual State of the Waters report. And they analyzed the ponds, the bays, many of which are unhealthy. But the water supplies on the Cape are good to excellent. Katuitt's is excellent in terms of their ranking. So that's good.
Nice.
But it doesn't mean we have to rest on our laurels.
And did they report specifically on the PFAS in that report, if you remember?
No, I think it's really just that meeting the standards that we publish every year in our reports.
Okay. Right, thanks for that.
They're not exceeding any of the thresholds, basically.
Well, thanks for that update. That's interesting. Okay. Chris, I guess superintendent's reports next.
Sure, yep. This is superintendent's report read on January 17th, 2024. For December of 2022, we pumped 6,962,000 gallons of water. In December of 2023, we pumped 6,419,000 gallons of water for a decrease of 543,000. We actually had more rain last year. We had 3.71 inches and 3.19 in 2023. So I think people are actually conserving a little bit. You know, if you were around and could see the pumps, they hardly were running at all this winter, which is good. They usually, I think that's probably the lowest December we've had, at least on our map that we have here. It's the lowest we've had in the last 5 years that we have scheduled right here.
So Chris, in December, it wouldn't be a function of rainfall. There's no irrigation going on.
Correct. But I mean, it might be, you know, even like people washing cars on a warm day, something like that. And you know, it could be just about any of that, but it just seems that people actually are going down a little bit. I know that, you know, when we had the COVID there in 2022, it was just a bunch of people around. Everybody used water. Everybody's around. That's what 2022 is. But I made the mistake of making a copy in black and white, so I couldn't tell you what any of those colors are. I got a little Scott thing going right now.
I can see that. I can see them. These are good color choices
Yep.
for me. Thank you, Jen.
I think I went on your recommendation.
Yeah.
Jen, you may not be able to answer this question, but of course, one of the questions that came up when we talked about increasing the water rates and trying to do all this conservation was what's going to happen to revenues. I know in the first year or two, we actually did quite well. My recollection is revenues actually went up. But do we have any sense where we're at? I mean, again, I'm putting you on the spot here. I should have given you, I didn't think of this. Maybe this is something for the next meeting, but
I actually can tell you almost exactly because
I'm not surprised.
Did the billing run. So we read meters at the end of the month in December, and the bills are at the printers being stuffed and folded and sealed and all that now. And I sent a heads up email to the treasurer that our billing, I won't say our revenue, our billing is down almost $300,000 from last year. Now, it's still more than we projected for the budget. I think we projected like 585,000, and this came in just over 600,000, but it's down about $300,000 from last year.
Okay, thanks. That's great that you had that at your fingertips. Obviously, it's something we want to watch, but it sounds like we're above budget, is what you're saying. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
We had projected the budget to be about 30% lower.
Excellent. Okay, good news. So it sounds like we're conserving water and staying in business at the same time. That's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Chris, go ahead. I interrupted.
Looking through association news, everybody's offering classes, got a lot of classes coming up. That's what they do a lot during the winter. A couple membership meetings going around and everything else. But come spring, they'll have a couple more conferences and maybe get back onto a few different things. It's keeping up with the stuff in the state and everything. I didn't send you the last one. I'll have to make a note to send that out to the Mass DEP and the Mass Waterworks newsletter, just so you guys can stay ahead a little bit too. I'll give you the next one that comes in this month. We didn't have any new services or relocations or leaks actually in all of December. A little update on Lewis Pond Road, which is the road we're going to be increasing the water main on. The gentleman did stop by when I was away. Actually, I was out of the office last week or the week before. He's going to be meeting with me hopefully next week just to go over the final version before we just for a couple to dot the I's and cross the T's before we put everything out to bid. We're hoping to put it out to bid within the next month or two and everything, so we can get going on that this spring. I have I'll give you a little bit on the field operator position. We had probably 21, 22 applicants. We narrowed it down to 7, did interviews. I've narrowed it down to someone I would like to offer the job to, who I think would be a good fit with everybody. Local, lives kind of close, and I have a backup in case. So I'd like to, looking around, they're paying people between 21 to 23 bucks an hour, starting them out now. I did a little survey with some of the other water departments. So I'd like to offer him 22 to start and $1 raise between if he gets his T1 and his D1, give him $1 for each one. After that, it's up to, whatever we do yearly. I'm kind of looking, without going into names and everything else, do you want to talk a little more about it off or in a private session about them or anything like that?
Well, let me ask the commissioners if I don't recall if I mean, clearly this is your decision. We trust you with this decision, Chris, and thanks for the report and update, but the commissioners have any questions on this? I'm actually impressed with the number of applications you got. That's great. I hear that's sort of an employees market these days, but that's really good that you got that many applications.
Right, and I'll tell you that we're one of 3 water departments on the Cape that are hiring right now.
Yeah, I see the one for Barnstable Fire.
Yep.
Scott, there's no need for the commissioners to be involved in that decision.
I don't think so. Right. Are there any questions, Dave or Mark?
I wondered if the candidate had the required licenses, or you're going to have to train him and
we're going to have to train them.
Got it.
We only had one candidate that had licenses apply. We chose not to go that route.
Okay.
Well, Chris, please proceed. Thank you for your
diligent
work at finding someone. Sounds like you got a couple of good choices.
It was to tell you the truth. When we got down to the last 4 people, I actually sat down with everybody to make sure they'd be a good fit, and we actually had a little meeting in my office, the 4 of us, talking about it to make sure everybody got that we're on the same boat, and I wasn't just throwing anybody down anybody's throat or anything like that.
Excellent.
All right. The other thing is, I don't know if anybody's heard, on Monday, I'm going to be going to, I believe it's the planning board meeting at the town of Barnstable. There is a proposed, I believe it's a 34 unit 40B going in off of Route 28 in Katuitt or Santuit area, between which is the Regatta and Capizi's Home Center. Jen, could you pop that up if you can?
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
I got it pulled up. I just need to share my screen.
I just heard about this about a week and a half ago. I had no idea about it until it came up.
Do you want the district map where the location is?
Yeah, we can start with that first. If you look at the district map here, Jen's kind of highlighted down below. There's a little lot here that runs off of 28 where it says Santuit.
Yep.
That's about the area. And you can't see it too well, but that's in the zone 2.
Is the entire property in the zone 2, Chris?
Correct. If you
is.
look down to the right on the bottom, that's station 2 and 1, and 4 is actually up further. Excuse me, that's 4 and 1.
1 and 4
down a little further. So that is up northwest to us, but it is in the zone 2, and it's something I'd have to particularly make sure that we had some kind of what they were going to use for wastewater and everything else. Make sure parking lot, anything that's in there, that we have some stipulations on groundwater safety. As this looks here, if it comes in off 28, what they're proposing is on the first 2 sides where it starts with like a horseshoe, those are 8-unit apartment buildings. It looks like, and then there's duplexes going around a cul-de-sac. All townhouses, or they call them apartments. Everything studio apartment and duplex apartments. That's what it is. 16 and 18, 34. So I will keep you in touch a little more. I just wanted to give you a little heads up on it. I didn't know if anybody wanted to go also to the meeting or had any wonders about it, but I just wanted to be aware. I have talked to the fire chief. Also, he has a couple concerns, just to make sure all fire codes are going to be met.
Chris, thanks for bringing this up. I had not heard about this. You mentioned planning board. These 40Bs usually go to the zoning board of appeals. And if I would definitely be interested in looking at whatever you have, if you could send,
Okay.
I would say send it to all three commissioners.
Yep.
This is something we should look at, and you're absolutely right. If this is all in the zone 2, we want to know what's going on with the wastewater. Fran, go ahead.
So is this between the Regatta and Ron's office on Main Street?
No, this is the opposite side. It's kind of like between Capizzi's Home Center, and right there it goes out to the back. There's quite an acreage that's there, and it doesn't seem to be taking up the whole thing. It's not heading towards Main Street. It seems to be heading more towards Newtown Road. It's more like where their kitchen parking lot is, where they keep their dumpster and stuff. I think
Okay.
that's actually not their property.
Okay, thanks.
Can you see that map okay, Fran?
Yeah, I can. Thank you.
Yeah.
Chris, one other question. Do you have any sense where they're at in the permitting process? I know a 40B.
It's just proposed right now. It's just proposed. They're looking to see what's going on.
So they have not even applied officially, because we have 180 days before the zoning board of appeals on a 40B project.
Okay.
So as long as we're at the beginning of that, that should give us ample time to take a good look at this and provide, I think we should comment on it.
Okay.
If it's in the zone 2, and it looks like it is. So yeah, definitely please send us what you got on that. And I'll definitely take a look at whatever materials are available. Fran, you still have your hand up. Do you have another?
Yeah, I was just going to say, as far as I know, they haven't been in front of site plan review.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. I'll send out anything I got on it and see if I can get anything more. I'll give the town a call and see what's happening.
Chris, thanks for flagging that. That's great.
Yeah.
What's the address?
4609 Falmouth Road.
4609. Okay.
That's really weird geography there too. There's like 3 kettle holes right adjacent.
Yeah, it's really there's what they used to call the lily pond back there. It's like a little kettle hole. You could see it on the drawing too, that they can't get close to. It looks like they're gonna have a giant retaining wall or something close to there.
Of course, mentioning the Association to Preserve Cape Cod, they did this mapping exercise with the Housing Assistance Corporation, and they went through the whole Cape and identified areas that were conducive to dense housing and areas that should be preserved from dense housing. Anything in a zone 2 that's not sewered was considered not conducive for affordable housing. Which just goes to show you how important these planning tools are.
Yeah.
Well, 40B is the law that authorizes these projects. Some describe it as the anti-planning statute that basically avoids all of the logical siting processes. So this is something we definitely want to stay on top of.
We construct all these elaborate environmental permitting regulations that trying to preserve all the resources, and then you can just do an end run, do a dense development in a zone 2.
Yep.
671 Main right there. They're on top of it. They're almost on a zone. They're part of zone 1, that project was, and we still couldn't stop it.
Right.
All right, Chris, what else you got on the?
All right, just a little information. I know we're shorthanded right now, but to let you know, we're going to be a little more shorthanded for a little bit. One of our employees is going to be out on the Family Leave Act, and if you want to talk about it later, we can talk about employment with HIPAA laws and everything else. I don't need to talk right now about it, but just to let you know, we will be a little shorthanded. Just could be short term, could be long term. We'll find out. So I'll keep you in touch. I'll get in touch with you myself, Scott, and talk about it.
Right.
When we talk about something else.
And again, as I mentioned last time, we talked about staffing. I'm happy to hear we have a good arrangement with COM.
Yep.
And hopefully that's still accessible.
Right.
Want to make sure we cover the bases there.
And last thing I have on here is kind of for you, Scott. We finally figured out today how to get and find out about our irrigation wells a little bit. And the fact that, yes, even though some of them might be, I was told that some of them don't have to have permits, they do. You really can't just pull them out of the system. You kind of got to go through each one and find out where it is. But it looks like we have about 102 private irrigation wells in town right now. And it looks like 41 of them went in 2023.
41 went in 2023.
Correct.
Wow.
So if I were to run this list just for, so we have 102 total. If I were to run it just for 2023, we have 41 of them went in the last year. So then out of curiosity, I went back and ran it. Okay, well, how many went in last time we changed the price increase, did the price increase, and that was effective January of 21. 25 wells went in that year. And then I went back again to 2019. And I think 2019 and 2020 combined was only like 11 wells. So they really started going in 21. And then we had a big jump in 23.
Wow, this is really interesting data. Thank you,
Where
Chris.
did you get this data?
Board of
Couple
Health?
of places.
Mass Health Department
Yeah.
and chase some of it down. And we also, Mass DEP has a well.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
Mapping map, I guess. Yeah.
So some of these haven't been installed yet, but they pulled a permit.
These all have been installed. Actually, they pulled the permit in where I did see it that they were all installed.
I know that the health department in Barnstable, the Board of Health does have a regulation requiring a permit for irrigation wells, but I wasn't sure how compliant.
When I talked to the guy at the town health department, he told me that not everyone does. If it was under 5 gallons a minute, they didn't have to pull a permit. Well, the lowest one I saw was 15 gallons a minute, for an irrigation well. So apparently they do. And I don't know, it's tough because you got to go through the town of Barnstable really to get everything in Barnstable, and so you have to figure out what's in Katuitt, what isn't.
Well, it sounds like our program is working.
Yeah.
Well, you know what else would be interesting? If we only knew a student that would like to do a GIS project, is to map it. Let's see how many are outside the zone too. And then
that
we
would
can
be
put to
interesting.
bed
Yeah.
this misapprehension that we're drawing down the same aquifer.
Yeah. Right. Good. Chris, thanks for sharing that. That's really interesting. And I'll give some thought to your suggestion, Commissioner Robinson.
There's no end to things that I could put your students to.
I'm sure.
Oh goodness. That
Chris,
concludes my report. Thank you.
okay, Chris, great report. Thanks for the update. That's really helpful. Well, let's move on. I can give a quick update on the source water protection. And just as a reminder, we had Tom Cambereri with us at the last meeting. My take home from his updated report is that the field work he's done has confirmed the flow directions from prior modeling. So I feel even more confident that we have a pretty good idea where the water is coming from for those wells, and where, including some of the wastewater. I actually had a very good meeting with Mark Boudreau, the district attorney, and we had a great discussion about all this. And the short and the long of it is he is going to draft, or is in the process of drafting, a warrant article that he will share with us first to expand our authority. And what we talked about was to integrate the ability for us to do water quality protection for our drinking water supply in a cooperative manner with private property owners, meaning we're not suggesting that we have the authority to go tell anybody what to do on their private property, but rather to work with them cooperatively to protect water. As Mark said, why wouldn't we want to do that? Of course we do. And so, Fran, thanks to you, we have a good suggestion to move forward with a program that I think will let us do our job better. in the future. And so Mark is going to draft that article. I suspect we'll have it before our next meeting. And what he suggested is we look at it, we edit it, and then we take it to a hearing, present it to the Prudential Committee, get it on the warrant for the annual district meeting. And that's about all I have to say. Happy to answer any questions about that at this point. He's going to draft the actual language, and we're going to keep it broad, meaning not specific to the septic system proposal we talked about before, but rather to provide us the opportunity to work with private landowners at protecting drinking water quality, which I'm guessing is going to be a fairly popular initiative to people. Fran, I saw you shake your head. Yeah. You think people don't want to protect their drinking water? Well,
no, I don't think they want to spend tax dollars to do it.
That's not, excuse me, but that's not what the article, just maybe I should be more clear. The article has nothing to do with spending any money. That would be a different question. The article is simply, and actually Mark brought this up. He said, this is not about spending money. So wait till you see the article, Fran, but the article is simply to provide us the opportunity to propose cooperative programs that might be supported financially. This is not an article to spend any money. So I just want to be clear about that.
Okay, because you haven't got that money that you think you have.
Correct. That's a separate activity. If we propose a program to protect water and we think it's worthwhile and more cost effective than treating at the wellhead, then that would be a separate initiative that the citizens would have to decide whether they want to spend less for protecting or more for treating. And that'll be their decision. But that's not the article he's drafting. What he's drafting is the ability for us to be able to have that opportunity to see if that might be a more effective way to go forward, which again, I think we'd all agree, why not have at least the opportunity to ask that question? So we'll see the language, Fran, but it has nothing. I asked the same thing. We talked about the financial, and I agree with you 100%. This should not an article about spending any money. That comes much later. This is simply an article to provide us the authority to ask the question if in fact this might be a cost-saving initiative, which I think we'd all want the opportunity to see if we can save money to protect the water. And that's really all it's about. But any other questions on so far? And obviously we'll see the actual language. But at this point, any commissioners, any questions? Okay. Any other public comments on that? Okay. Well, I think we'll have that for the next meeting to discuss and look at, and then we would, as Mark suggested, we take it through the public hearing process and put it to the district meeting for a vote at the annual meeting. That's all I have on source water protection and test wells and enabling legislation. So that moves us on to new business, and we're going to talk, I guess Jen's going to start us off with a discussion about the budget. Preliminary discussion.
Will, yep, just going to share my screen again. Okay. So we're halfway through fiscal 24 and we're already looking at kicking off fiscal 25. So we are going to start looking at expenditures for fiscal 25 as well as long-term planning for the 5-year capital plan. I just have the shell of the budget here. We have not started entering any of the expenses yet. Chris and I will start working on the operating expenses. What I'd like to make sure to put in front of you guys is that you're going to have to start considering the labor and salaries, as well as conduct Chris's evaluation. So tomorrow I will send you the paperwork. The forms, Chris's prior evaluations and his the form for his upcoming evaluation. But I also want to make sure that you are talking about your capital planning, because we'll have to prepare articles for the warrant if there are any capital expenditures on your horizon in the coming fiscal year. This is what we had out there. Obviously, I've grayed out fiscal year 23 and 24 because we're in those periods now. But I wanted, it was important to see what we've already committed to for expenses on the capital plan. So that's basically my kickoff. And then other than that, Scott, was the reminder to you for the annual report letter. Charlie Eager will be looking for that probably by the beginning of March. I included in that packet a copy of the one from last year that Tom prepared. Happy to help any way I can.
Yeah, I saw that, and I will get to that
Okay.
shortly. So thank you
Just
for
want
the
to make sure
reminder.
that was on your horizon.
It is.
I have a couple. I mean, it doesn't look like we're going to use the 150 there. That's going to have to be taken off. But and even right now with the water main replacement, we might want to kick those both back. But we do have a couple issues with the tanks, and I'm waiting on my other report to come in. And with the new metering system that we were talking about, we might ask for a little bit more money for the new meter reading system. I'm waiting on a price from that from Tie Sales, and I'm waiting on a price from utility services on what has to be done at the tanks. They're talking about a little bit of spot painting and stuff like that. So if I can get better prices, then I can at least know what I need, whether I'm going to just raise the budget itself or go for capital improvement stuff, money.
We're going to have some computer expense in the coming fiscal year as well.
Yeah.
I guess while you have the slide up there, Jen, I'm just going to highlight what's highlighted, and that is the $15 to $20 million for treatment. Just as a reminder, that's what we're trying to avoid. I'm a fiscal conservative. I would rather spend less money to meet water quality standards. And I'm a believer in the prevention versus the fixing later approach. We've all learned the lesson many, many times about much less expensive and to prevent. So this is really the intent of the source water protection program, to avoid that expense. I think that if we are diligent about our approach, and I think we're getting there, I think we can achieve that and save a whole bunch of money. So it's good that we have that in there as a reminder that the way to avoid that is to do good things up front preventatively. And I'm going to keep working on that. So that's my pitch for source water protection. I'm going to keep pitching it. But other than that, Jen, any other questions? What should we be doing next with this budget?
So for the February meeting, like I said, Chris and I will work on the operating and maintenance expenditures and get those ready for you. The big thing for the February meeting will be, I don't know if you want to schedule a separate meeting to do Chris's performance evaluation, or if you want to do that as part of the February regular meeting. And then salary recommendations, because we'll need, and then we'll want to review the finalized budget at our March meeting so that you can take it in front of the Prudential Committee at the end of March.
Well, let me make a suggestion. Since we are meeting in February via Zoom again, and we don't have another group coming in as we often do at Freedom Hall, instead of scheduling an additional meeting, could we agree that instead of budgeting the usual hour and a half, we might add another 45 minutes to an hour to the schedule on the February meeting? Would the other commissioners be any thoughts on that?
That's fine
Or
with
would you
me.
rather do a separate meeting? I'm sorry, go ahead, David.
No, that's fine. Hang on a second. I'm still on. No, I'm not on mute. No, I'm fine going along on the February meeting.
Do a longer meeting. Mark, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, why don't we try to do that, Jen? You have to remind us the budget, the time. But I think that might make sense. I don't know that we're gonna have a lot of additional items. The only thing I might have is the language from Mark Boudreau, but that's gonna be a paragraph or two. We're not gonna spend a lot of time on that. So my guess is we can focus on this.
When would we have a discussion about long-term planning, since we're sort of on a sliding calendar on the 5-year capital improvement program?
Jen, what are your thoughts on that? When you say long-term planning, Dave, you're talking about fiscal planning?
Yeah, exactly. So, right now the column for
Yeah.
FY 2029 is blank. When do we have that discussion about sort of
So
the-
normally during this budget planning process, we look at what's going to be coming up in the next 5 years.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know. We'll do it as part of this.
Anybody else on the budget? All right, well, thanks for getting us started, and we'll look forward to spending a little bit longer meeting in February to try to get going on that. Annual report letter, we took care of that. Mark, any updates on the affordable access to drinking water?
No,
Where do we
again,
wanna go
we're
with
just,
that?
we're waiting for the spring to have another public session.
Okay. And would that be through the Civic Association? Okay.
I hope so.
Maybe we could combine that with discussion about this legislative initiative that we're talking about. So Jen, if you could remind me, maybe I'll reach out to Carol and see if we could tentatively look at some dates. You're thinking March, April, Mark, for that, maybe?
More like early April, I think.
Okay. Okay, April sounds good. That might mesh well with the legislative approach. And let's see, we're moving along here pretty well. Matters not anticipated by the chair. Anybody have other items we should talk about? Other commissioners? Fran, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna need your mid-year report for the February meeting, prudential meeting. Mid-year budget report.
Okay. Jen, you
I'll work with you and Chris on that.
okay.
Thank you, Fran.
Thanks, Fran, for that reminder. And that brings us back to additional public comment. Anybody like to bring up any items that we have not yet discussed this evening? And we really appreciate you being here, so we want to give you time.
Well, I'll bring something up. Driving behind these salt trucks, it's just staggering the amount they put on these side roads. I mean, I understand it on the main roads, but this week, my house abuts on East Lane, and they drove up and down East Lane pouring out salt. There are 3 houses live on that dead end. It's just, and it's zone 2. So I mean, I get it on Main Street. I got it. But on these silly little side streets, I don't get it.
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned to Jen before we got started, I had a 8-day vacation up in Stowe, Vermont, and I rented a place on a steeper hill than I think you could find anywhere on Cape Cod. And you know how much salt they put on that road? None. They plowed it and they put some dirt down, and it was fine. I had no trouble. So I tend to agree with you. We seem to be overzealous about the salt approach here, and I don't know. I know we are Chris. I always forget our representative from Mass Rural Water who helped us, but I always remember one of his.
Bruce Young, yeah.
Bruce Young.
Yes, thank you. One of his areas of expertise was this issue here, this road salting, and I agree, Mark. I don't know. It's a hard thing to change.
Well, so I mean, the policy should be wait until somebody complains. If you're on a small road with 2 or 3 houses and it's completely flat, and you know, there's no way to accelerate. You're just coming out of your driveway and going onto Main Street, and Main Street should have lots of salt on it. But it's just a pet peeve. I don't know. I mean, maybe these drivers get paid by the mile. I don't know.
It's a valid concern. It's and again, as far as I know, there's not a lot more people in Vermont in trouble with accidents than we have, but
So we've pursued it with the town highway department. We've pursued it with the state DOT. Where do we go next? Or what do we do?
well, I think it's sort of an accepted practice here in Massachusetts, and I suspect that there's some perhaps mis and disinformation out there about liabilities. Because again, my guess is people in Vermont have liability too, but somehow they're surviving it without the extensive amount of salt. By the way, New Hampshire's in the same boat. They're not salting nearly as much because chlorides are a problem with their streams and wetlands, in addition to drinking water supplies. So for some reason, Massachusetts has been all in on this, and it's a big issue. I think it's a hard one for us to tackle, but I think it's worth. I'm glad you raised it, Mark, and we should keep thinking about maybe ways to approach it.
I'm a lot better at raising issues than solving them, I'm afraid.
You might want to speak to our town councilor.
I'm sorry, Fran, I couldn't hear you.
You might want to speak to our town councilor.
Town councilor. That's a good thought.
Yeah.
I know where to find him.
Yeah.
Good thought, Fran. I'll do that.
Also, I think off Cape, a lot of towns, they don't use salt, they use a salty solution, but it's not the salt itself. Is that
Yeah,
what?
some communities use calcium chloride instead of sodium chloride.
Yeah.
I know, and there's acetate solution that they're slightly more expensive, or I shouldn't say slightly, they're more expensive. I don't know how much more, but I know in Vermont they use something called dirt. Which I don't think is that expensive. Anyways, yes, glad you raised it. Any other issues, public comment? I'd like to bring up. Well, we made good time, very good time this evening, so maybe we can put this in the bank for the February meeting and spend a little more time when we do the budget. Appreciate everybody's focus here and excellent staff reports from Chris and Jen. Fran, thank you as always, your good input, and really appreciate you being here, and really appreciate the other people who are here, and don't want to put you on the spot at all, but we really welcome attendance, and we want to know it. We want to be transparent, and we want input, and you know, I think I feel really good about the direction we're going here. I think we're in good shape. And Chris, I think the only thing I take home from tonight's meeting is your shorthandedness with the staff.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll be training a guy pretty soon, and get everybody there. So at least it'll be another hand at least, another shovel, we'll say. Yeah.
Yeah, please don't be bashful about trying to reach out and maybe get some extra help.
Yep. No
If
problem.
you want to talk one-on-one and maybe update the people at COM know our situation, just so that
they're under it right now too. They're hiring right now, also.
And do we have a similar arrangement with Mashpee, by the way?
It's kind of like a system wide, you know. If I sent out something to the local people, someone said I'll send someone over, you know. So whoever
You're pretty confident we can get somebody pretty quick if we need.
Yeah.
But I think if you ask Mark or Dave and I to go out, we're not going to know what the hell we're doing out there. I'm not too good with the pipe wrench, but that's good to know that you have. Maybe Dave is, but I know Mark isn't.
Put you on irrigation investigation.
Yeah, there you go.
That sounds good. No, well, please reach out, Chris. I know this is a little concerning to me that you're that we're down, we don't have a big staff to begin with, so please stay in touch and reach out any way we can help. We'll support you.
No problem.
I was just going to give a photo credit shout out to Commissioner Churbuck for providing us a photo for the CCR this year. So
Very nice.
we've got a proof, and it will go out with the March bills, with the stop sharing that. With the last billing, we had 270 e-bills that went out, brought our mailing down to 1,600. So those that get an e-bill will get it electronically, and we can reduce our printing needs.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Taken by a distant cousin, Hugh Knight, back in the 1930s. I think.
Nice. Do you want me to change the photo credit on there, or you? We just said from the files of David.
Yeah, leave it.
Okay, perfect.
We need to pick our next meeting date, Jen. What's the nomination?
So the 21st of February would be the third Wednesday.
Let me look at that. I'm going to be traveling, but I'm going to be 5 time zones away, but actually it works in my favor. Let's see. It will be, I'm sorry, 21st, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Is that good for the other commissioners?
Yes.
Okay. Let's book it.
All right. Perfect.
And that'll be again, as a reminder, when you put that in your calendar, why don't we budget 2.5 hours just in case? And then hearing no other public comment, I will ask for a motion to adjourn early tonight.
I move that we adjourn.
Second. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Thank you, guys.
Jen, let's talk on Monday. Just some follow-up items. I'm away the next couple days.
Okay.
But can you, are you in on Monday?
I am.
All right, let's, I'm gonna put it in my calendar too. I think I'm gonna stop by the office if that's okay, and
That's great, because I'll have a couple of months of minutes for you to sign.
because I've got a couple of, I've been behind schedule, like I said, the holidays, and I had a 10-day vacation and getting ready for school again, which starts Friday, so I am admittedly a little behind.
All right.
I want to catch up, so
If you get the chance, check on